Well, why don't we get going? Good morning, everybody. I'm John Casper with the Oshkosh Chamber, and thank you for joining us. Today for our virtual town hall session with two of our finest leaders and two good-looking gentlemen, I might add. Mark Rohloff, with City Manager of the City of Oshkosh, and John Doemel, County Executive of Winnebago County. Just remind everybody, we are recording this, so if you want to go back later to view it, you can do that. We'll push it out to the membership. So for those who could not join us at 10 this morning, they can go back and review this. So the format that we're going to use today is because Mark will be doing some multiple things during this program. We're going to have Mark go first. He'll provide his update and briefing. And then we're going to have Q&A with Mark first before we bring John on to do the same thing. So if anybody has a question, comments, please use the Q&A tab on the bottom of the page. Ask that question, and then I'll review those and ask those. So Mark, if want to take a few minutes and provide your update, and we'll do Q&A afterwards, and then bring John on after that. So Mark, it's all yours.
Great. Thanks, John. Appreciate the opportunity. There's about 5 general areas I thought I could brief everybody on today, but I'm certainly open to any questions that you might have on a semi-related or unrelated topic as well. But want to talk a little bit about the budget that's been presented to the City Council, what that means from a tax standpoint, and what some of the priorities are. The council actually had a lengthy discussion following their workshop. They had a workshop last week, and they had a pretty lengthy discussion of almost 2 hours last night. The budget itself, the overall city budget, operating budget, is about $140 million, along with a $60 million plus capital projects budget. Our general fund, which is the one that everybody focuses on because that's tax dollars and stuff like that, that's about $49 million. The levy itself is being proposed at about an increase of about 4.6%. The council wrestled with that. That's the dollars that are going to be raised. Depending on which way you look at it, I just prefer what the levy is going up, because that's the real barometer, because you can play games with tax rates and this and that. We're going to be seeking about 4.6% more than we did last year. Part of the problem remains that the state hasn't increased their portion of shared revenue. What does shared revenue mean? That is intended for the state to share sales tax, income tax, because we get none of that directly from anybody. All the sales tax you pay goes directly to the state. It doesn't go to the county or the city. So that shared revenue hasn't been increased for more than 20 years. So that's a challenge, that when your second largest revenue source has been frozen for 20 years, the only other well we can go to is property taxes. We are over reliant on property taxes. I'm not ashamed of saying that. And it's the biggest complaint we hear. So that's a challenge that the council has, but that's the only well that we can dip into. So that's what we seek. We saw some other reductions as well. At the same time, the council recognizes we have some needs. I can tell you that County Executive Doemel and I talk on a regular basis about different collaborations. And one of the things we're talking about in terms of collaboration is trying to add some social work collaboration with the county, who has a pool of social workers, and try to help with public safety, specifically police. So we're looking at funding a social worker between the two of us that would be devoted to police, really trying to reduce calls through preventive measures. There's so many calls that our police have to run to that are mental health related. Our folks are trained in crisis intervention. It's called CIT training. And that's very good, but that's not everything. I think we do a heck of a good job. I love to brag that our police department is the only municipal police department in the entire state of Wisconsin that's nationally accredited. We did that many years ago because we wanted to demonstrate that we are following certain standards. So typically people will say, well, do you do this and do you do that? Those are typically things that are on the checklist for being accredited. And so the answer is yes, we do those things. A lot of people don't see or know about it because for the most part, you and I, we generally take police for granted. They do their job, they keep us safe, and we get to sleep at night not worrying about it. Towards that end, we know that we've heard from the business community. Several council members have spoken with me about concerns in the downtown area, for example, bar fights. There's actually some gunfire some time ago. We're adding 2 extra police officers to the budget to address that. And then there's some other issues that the council needs to take into account. We've heard a lot of people talking about our roundabouts aren't being maintained. Well, we never increased any staffing when all those roundabouts were added 10, 12 years ago. So we're adding somebody to our arborist crew to help address those things and our park system. And then some stuff with utilities. We're going to be under a brand new mandate that we have to increase our lead and copper testing by 100-fold. And we already have somebody that devotes a good part of her time to do that testing. When it's increasing 100-fold, we're going to have a person that does nothing but those tests. And that's a federal mandate that you're going to see from a lot of other communities. So we've got to do that. So that's kind of what the budget looks like for next year. On more maybe optimistic or bright projects, and I know the business community is always interested in this, is our economic development projects. Our redevelopment authority just went with a proposal from T-Wall Enterprises out of the Madison area to redo the South Shore area. That's everything that's south of the river, east of Main Street, north of 9th that we currently own. We've acquired over a number of years the properties over there, and we're working with T-Wall Enterprises on a development agreement that'll eventually involve a TIF district and things of that nature. That kind of rides along with Pioneer. I can tell you, we regularly talk to Art Dumke, who is the owner of the Pioneer Island, about different ideas. I think, we want to have quality over speed. So we've been waiting on that for a number of years. I have faith that Art's going to be able to pull something off, and we're working with him regularly. We have an obligation that when a development happens out there, we have to put in a trail because the state actually owns a corner of Pioneer Island and they want public access to that. That was something that was done years ago, probably 2003. So we all inherited that. We've got ideas and we've been really creative about it, but we got to find the right match for Art. Oshkosh Avenue, I'm excited about the stuff that's going on out there. You can see it going on. We've got Fox Communities Credit Union that's actively building their facility. A couple other buildings going up. The Town Place Suites is getting ready to be ready to open, as well as a couple other places in there. So I think it's sprucing up the Oshkosh Avenue corridor. We actually created 2 TIF districts out there, one for Oshcorp to address everything we wanted to do to help them, but we also did one for all the other surrounding development, so we can use that tax increment to do things like fix up Oshkosh Avenue, eventually redo the intersection of Sawyer and Oshkosh Avenue. I know how everybody loves that intersection, and we know we want to do something with that to tie it in well with Rainbow Park and all that stuff. So that's a project on the wish list. And as the tax increment builds up in that immediate area, we're going to reap the benefits of that. So I'm really excited about that. Projects, we got a lot of capital projects that are in our $60 million capital improvement plan. And pretty much everything I'm going to reel off here has nothing to do with ARPA, which of course I will talk about. But I want to talk about a few of these. Oregon Street, extending the sewer utilities continuing to go south. We're in phase, next year will be year 5 of a 6-year project. We're now getting into areas where we're collaborating again with Winnebago County, because now we're getting into joint jurisdiction. We need sewer out there, but it's a county road. So we're working with them to get that done. The county was wise enough to delay their construction project for the road until we got the sewer out there. And I appreciate the county's collaboration with that. The Parks Administration Building at the corner of Dakota and Sawyer, or Dakota and Witzel, excuse me, is in rough shape. It's a relic of the 1950s. We will be opening bids shortly and starting construction next spring on a new parks building. We're going to have to scatter our parks folks to various buildings, and they got to move in with the relatives for about a year and a half. It'll be a little tight, but it's much needed. That building is, in many regards, is unsafe, and we just have to take care of that. Meanwhile, parks, we're looking at getting the shelter built over at what's now Lakeshore Park, adjacent to Oshkosh Corporation. We're real excited about a 4-season facility, and that's being funded with the proceeds of the land sale to Oshkosh Corporation. So it's giving back for, losing a portion of the former golf course to get a facility that has been on the list for a long time. We're replacing ambulance units. We've got some radios that need to get replaced because the technology is going away. So we got that in our project. Some of you may have heard a little thing about what's called the Clearwell project at our filtration plant at the ends of Washington and Merritt. Those are 100-year-old clear wells that the DNR says we must replace. They're under the level of Lake Winnebago, so they want us to raise it above. And we've got a lot of tight areas in there because we've got water intakes and pipes going in and out of the plant that we have to keep secure, and you just can't build over those pipes. So as open an area as it seems, it's an extremely tight area that we've got to be very careful. I know some of the neighbors aren't thrilled about that, but we've got to feed water to 66,000+ people, and we've got to do it safely, and we got to do it within the rules that the DNR sets for us. So that's a big project. That's $25 to $30 million, and the longer we wait, the price tags are going to keep going up because of the bidding atmosphere that we're in right now. Algoma Boulevard through the university is scheduled to be done next year. 1 mile long, $10 million for the whole shebang. Gives you an idea of how expensive some of our projects are. And I use that because you talk about 20 million in ARPA, which I'll talk about in a second. 20 million could do 2 miles of roads and not even all of our Clearwell projects. So it gives you an idea of the magnitude of some of these projects. While the ARPA money is phenomenal and expensive for all of us in the long run, it can only go so far. East 9th, east of South Main Street, again, that ties in with that sawdust district. We need to get that road put in so that we have a more direct access onto Pioneer Island. Then we can eliminate that extension of Pioneer East 6th. I like to call it East 6th, but it's that extension that's going to go away, and we're going to have a trail in there. So East 9th is necessary for Pioneer Island and the sawdust district. And it'll be a much more direct access to that area. It's basically get off of I-41 at 9th and head east. And a couple other projects, Rosalia, other street rehabilitation projects that we need to get done. COVID, ARPA, et cetera. We've extended our mask mandate within city buildings only. Council decided a long time ago that a mask mandate citywide was not going to be feasible, acceptable, et cetera. But our high transmission rate remains very high. And so we've decided as a safety precaution, we're still getting people who are sick. And sadly, we lost an employee. An employee died last month. That wasn't made a big deal about. It's a very private issue for that family, but I lost an employee last month. Wasn't a very pleasant thing, guys. I'm just telling you. So we have to continue at least through November. I think we're hoping that once juvenile vaccinations are available, we'll get in a better position. And I can't wait to get rid of these things, these masks. Handing it off into ARPA, we have a $20.5 million allocation. The council has allocated all of about $38,000 so far. They've asked me to present a plan. The council has also given me some directives on things that they wanted to accomplish, not necessarily directly related to COVID, but issues like homelessness that have arisen. Day by day normally is not filled up. This early in the season, they are filled up, and they turned away 10 people just last night. And I have video I can show you of over at the end of Michigan Street where they're living under that bridge. We have a homeless issue that we got to deal with here. I don't think anybody wants to see them. And I got some people saying, well, let them go in the city parks. That's not acceptable from my standpoint. And it's just not a good idea. So we're working on those things. But some of our ARPA money, I think, is going to need to go towards some of those things. I've pretty much stuck my neck out and saying I think we should give $1 million to Day by Day. And I've asked Day by Day to plan on that. And council knows that I'm going to be pushing that. They've said they want to deal with homelessness. We have this opportunity. COVID has made our homeless problem increase. You can give out all the theories in the world about where that came from. It's a fact. We have a homeless issue here. At the same time, council did say they wanted 75% of our ARPA money dedicated to infrastructure. Now, I got different people of different political ilks with different definitions of what infrastructure means. I would say I'm probably a little more old school. I learned my definition of infrastructure in my baby civil engineering class in grad school. And that's water, sewer, streets, basic stuff. Now, I don't think my definition is universally agreed upon by members of council, and we're going to have to wrestle with that. But that's how I envision it. But I think infrastructure includes things also nowadays like technology, fiber, things like that. We got to do a limited part of that. So that's kind of what we're doing with ARPA, and you'll see more unfold as time goes on. But it's a blessing and a curse because I feel like the rich uncle who won the lottery and all my relatives are coming out of the woodwork. We have over $100 million in requests, and I got 20 million. It sounds like not a huge problem, but telling people are asking for 80 million worth of projects that they're not getting it. That's really where the issue is. I'm a big boy. I'll be able to handle it, but it's an issue that's out there. And just be aware if you were one of those people that on the list, I'm either going to be able to say yes or no. And the chance of you getting a yes is about 1 in 5. So just be aware that that's out there. With that, I am more than happy to take questions on any of those items or anything unrelated that's at least related to the city.
Well, very thorough job, Mark. Thanks. We did have a question came in, and it was directed to both of you, but it's I'll ask it of Mark, and then we'll talk to John about it. But I know there's some limitations as it relates to the city, but they were talking about your thoughts about raising sales tax. I think there's far less things the city can do. The county can do a couple of things, but Mark, any comment on that?
Yeah, well, like I mentioned with shared revenue, we get no sales tax. So I'm increasing our sales tax by 10 times this year, and I still get 0. We have no authority whatsoever to do anything with sales taxes. With that said, we need to revisit our tax structure for funding local governments. Property taxes are 1840 economy when we were all agrarian, and property value is not necessarily the proper way to fund local government. Is it one of the ways? I would say yes. Is it the only way? I would say no. Now, does that say I'm in favor of a sales tax? I'm saying we need to talk about how we fund local government. Sales tax has its benefits and its disadvantages as well. It is not a cure-all by any stretch. And I think last year, there are a lot of cities in other states that were kind of envious of us because we had property tax and we didn't have to worry about sales tax. And sales tax took this big drop and then it made a recovery, and it actually is recovering okay. But sales tax, when the economy goes south, and it goes through those cycles, it goes up and down. When it goes down, you better be ready because that sales tax isn't coming and you can't raise sales taxes magically. I've been in states that have had sales taxes for local government, and and when times are good, sales tax is great. When times are bad, you're scrambling around. So it's a balancing act, but I would say that from a philosophical standpoint, put us in a position where we're responsible for controlling our own destiny. And if sales tax goes down, that's our destiny and we got to live with it. One of the ways you do that is you save for the lean times, and then you lean into those reserves until those bad times go away, and then you can replenish whatever you need to do. It's sort of harvesting, and then winter sets in and you got to live off of what you've collected. So that's a long way of saying I have no sales tax. And at this point, the state is not even having a discussion about it. But I think we need to have the discussion about how local government's funded.
You mentioned a potential 4.6% levy increase. What does that translate into as it relates to the tax rate?
It is about about a 30-cent increase. For an $100,000 house, it's probably gonna be about 47. Now I'm still, we had a pretty good number up until 2 days ago. It was 44, but council did a little more. So I'm ballparking at about a $47 increase on a $100,000 house.
And one quick one before we throw it over to, I know you got to do a couple things.
No, I'm good.
Okay. You talked about the Four Seasons building that you're doing over on Oshkosh Avenue. What about the rest of that parks development in that plan? What do you foresee that the timing of that to be built out?
The Lakeshore Park Four Season building, we will be bidding out probably over the winter, trying to get good bid prices and everything. So that could be done as early as next fall. And that'll include a little bit of a parking area and some immediate area improvements, but that's all that'll really cover. The rest of the park is going to have to be funded on, as we go basis. And I think it'll be done in phases, but I think we can have discussions about what other things we want to prioritize. But right now we get that done. And then it'll be a wonderful addition with the trails we have through there. It'll be a great place for bicyclists to go park and go on the trail around Lakeshore Park onto the Tribal Heritage Trail and onto places north, including Bare Bones Brewery and places like that.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Go.
Maybe next spring.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks, Mark. Now, John Doemel, our county executive. John, you want to take it away?
Thanks for having me on. I'm going to talk a little bit about my proposed budget that's coming up. Now, just to be clear, it's my proposed budget. The county board still has to go through hearings and amendments. But what we're proposing actually reduces our levy by $684,000. I'm opting to attempt to not take net new construction this year, just to make sure that we're keeping government in the confines, I guess, until we have a better direction of what we need to be doing. Primarily, it's going to be reducing the debt levy. It's a tax cut. Lowest tax rate since 1986. We're going to be bringing the tax rate down to $4.61 per thousand. It's going to get us in line, lower than Calumet, Sheboygan counties, but we're still not quite to Outagamie and Brown County. Outagamie is $3.55, Brown's $3.72. So I'm trying to make us a little bit more compatible. And I'm really focused on that tax rate to bring more businesses in, more houses in, more growth, I guess, in the county. The budget is actually a slight reduction on headcount in the county. I believe as it sits, we are reducing by 0.8 staff members. And I'm also looking that includes hiring more staff for my office. We did reduce it. I went before for a chief of staff and a comms person. We shrunk it into a policy director that I think could do both to really try to get us lean. But as a CEO of an organization that has over 20 department heads and 36 board supervisors to help and 176,000 residents, I have the staff of 2, me and one person to help answer phone calls and get my schedule straight. So I am asking for an increase there. One of the things we're looking to do is really we're going into drug diversion programs, and we're adding 5 new positions to the Connect program. And this is really so we can start opening up to referrals from law enforcement. Right now, we can help people with addiction once they're in trouble with the law, but we want to move it upstream so we can help get them the help they need before they get into trouble with the law. And to make room for this, one of the things that we've done is we're actually, the sheriff is proposing to close 2 pods this year and reduce 12 jailers off our TO, table of organization, simply because we are having a hard time hiring those people anyway. So we're not letting go of anybody. We're eliminating positions that we couldn't fill. Right now our county policy requires all COLA to be inherited or earned through merit. So we're lagging behind the private sector, and I'm sure Mark can feel the same thing. It's wages are going up all around us, and we are really slow to react. And if we don't get ahead of that, we're really going to be struggling. So we're going to have to tighten the belt and figure out a way to get a little bit more for our employees, so that we're not hit by this shortage. And that's what it is. It's not really a labor crisis. It's a shortage. There just aren't the people. Other county updates that I have. Building culture has been a huge part of my goal. Been working with leadership development with department heads. I'm starting having a lunch with the executive opportunities for all employees. We're going to be really trying to develop some organizational values that are spawned from our employees. I want to hear what they have to say. And morale hasn't been the best since I've got here. I've actually taken the time to email every single county employee on their birthday. And the responses on that have been huge. Just a simple happy birthday email. And I'm actually kind of saddened by how impactful that's been. One thing that I've been beating the drum on from the beginning is a strategic plan. We need one. I have no idea how we've been operating thus far without one. The city of Oshkosh has a fantastic strategic plan. They have really good tools in place to keep them on the rails, I guess is how I would describe it. So we really have to develop that. We need to have a clear set of a mission and vision for us as a county. What is the purpose of county government? These are questions that we have to ask ourselves. What are we going to focus on? What's important to our residents? We have to start working together as a community. That means partnering up with not just Oshkosh, but Needham, Menasha, Fox Crossing, Winnebago, Amro, the whole county. We have to come together. If the pandemic taught us one thing, is we're not as self-sufficient as we thought we were. We had people in need while we were dumping out milk. We had animals being slaughtered because we couldn't process it. That was unheard of 100 years ago, 200 years ago. So maybe this is a wake-up call that we need to be better prepared for emergencies like that. If something ever happened to our power grid and we got wiped out, we're way behind on figuring that out, even though this is where we've came from on civilization for quite some time. So there was the question on sales tax. I think I'm just going to tackle that here. As of now, I'm not a fan because there's not really good limitations on it. But however, that being said, the Supreme Court is going to be having oral discussions on sales tax coming up here in the next few days to make it mandatory that if you're going to have a sales tax, it has to be used to apply toward property tax. You can't use it for anything else. And that I'd be okay with. And one of the things that Mark said, that if you're dependent on sales tax and the economy takes a hit, well, then you take a hit. I think that's a good thing. I think if people are struggling and have to tighten their belt, we have to do the same. And it attaches us to the success of the people that we're governing. And that's good. I mean, you look at right now, people are struggling out there. I know a lot of small business owners that are struggling, but house prices are going up. So when we reevaluate that and your taxes go up when everything's struggling, we can't feast while everybody else is a famine. So I do think it's appetizing to the least that to attach ourselves to the well-being of our residents. But until that Supreme Court says this is the only way that you can use it to offset that property tax, I'm a little bit hesitant to have that discussion. But that could change depending on a Supreme Court ruling. Then I think it'd be something that I think that I would look forward to. Other than that, it's been real fun in this brave new world of mine, and I'm adjusting quite nicely. So I think that, and as far as ARPA, talk a little bit about ARPA. We have $33 million in account as the county. And some of the concerns that I have is this is a recovery money. This is to help us recover from the pandemic. And my issue with that is the pandemic is not over. We still have damage coming. We still have businesses shutting down. We have people leaving the workforce. The damage is not done for us to recover from. So I'm holding back a little bit to make sure that we have a strategic plan so we can see what the full scope of this thing is going to be. We have one shot, and like Mark said, this is not free money. We're going to be paying this back for a long time. My children, my grandchildren will be paying this back. So we have to make sure that we set up the county that this money is not spent, that it's invested in a way to set us up for success in the future, long term, because it's going to take us a long time to pay this back. So I think we have to make sure that we're collaborating as best we can with municipalities within the county, as well as state and federal programs that are out there to make sure we're getting the biggest investment we possibly can. And I think that's it for me.
Great, thanks. Thanks. Couple questions may follow up. I heard you the other day at the county legislative committee, and he had a very passionate plea about strategic planning for the county and the lack of strategic planning that has occurred over the last several decades. Can you expound a little bit more about that in terms of how you would go about initiating that and implementing that over the next year or two?
Well, yeah, a strategic plan it's a big deal. I had a proposal to talk to our personnel and finance committee, which died on the floor. And we're going to break it up and try to listen to their criticism and come back and try to fix the things that they said that I have wrong. But we have to go out and find somebody to help us with a strategic plan so we can get input from all the shareholders, whether it be the chambers or the business owners or the colleges or the municipalities, as well as the supervisors and the citizens. I mean, a strategic plan has to really be all encompassing so that we can agree. We have to know what our purpose is. We can't just shoot from the hip when we want to add or reduce programs in the county. We have to look at the things that are mandated. One of the fun things is we have a lot of mandates that are unfunded. The state tells us we have to do this thing, but I'm not going to give you a penny to do it. So we have to make sure that we're doing those things and doing those things well. We have to know what our purpose is supposed to be as a county government.
Okay. Um, You talked about ARPA and, the county's got 33 million, the city has, 20 and a half million and, Nina, Menasha, every town, every village in the county has money. Has there been discussions about, how can we leverage each other's, dollars in terms of, projects that, may be similar, maybe things that, might be good for Oshkosh, might be good for the county, good for Nina, the county, that sort of thing. Any discussion about that? Any type of projects that might be prime for that kind of activity?
There has been. Well, another proposal that I try to go to a committee with was I wanted to hire on a project position as an ARPA analyst. To go after an MPA or an MBA to really live and breathe this, to be that resource for all our townships and how we collaborate. Somebody to really dive into ARPA to see where the collaboration on the state level, the federal level, and within the cities. Oshkosh has a strategic plan, and Mark has some employees to help him out with that. People that are in his office, but Nepeiskin or Rushford or Nakaimai don't have the same resources. So I wanted to bring in an analyst to really be that resource for our smaller townships so that we can collaborate and figure out how we stretch these dollars as long as possible. And I guess I'm going to try to come back to the committee for that analyst, and we'll see if we can have a discussion on it.
Mark, any thoughts about that?
Yeah, John, I'm still here. John and I have discussed a great deal of things that we can do, and I think one of the opportunities that we all have is the state announced a program a few weeks ago, about $250 million, of which 200 is available to local governments. And I think, unfortunately, they've given us a very short deadline. The deadline for submission of ideas is next Thursday. So that kind of puts everybody under the gun to scramble a little bit. But I think we're looking for opportunities where we can leverage our funds with private sector funding for workforce housing. And we've been talking to some of our usual suspects, people we work with on housing projects in the city, and what can we do to improve that. And I think we've got to be prepared to collaborate on a variety of different things. I mentioned homelessness. It's not just about day-by-day warming shelter. I know prior to becoming county executive, John was, active in the tiny homes project. We both know that is another project that's got a groundswell of support. Looking at that, looking at bringing in a COTS. They're doing a wonderful job in the Fox Cities. That's the next phase, because you can't just be providing nightly shelter and without any other services and expect these folks to get out of it. Molly Butz with the day-by-day warming shelter tells me 40% of her guests are gainfully employed. That says something. We got to get folks moving to the next level. And I think this is not just a city of Oshkosh problem. The tendency is for homeless to congregate in the more densely populated areas. That's why you don't hear about that issue in every community, but you hear about it in Appleton, you hear about it in Green Bay, you hear about it in Oshkosh. It's an issue.
John, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I want to talk about that homeless shelter a little bit more. And of course, it's something I'm passionate about, but Mark's exactly right. You have to have the next level, the COTS. It's not about sheltering homeless. It's about the continuum of how to get them better, how to get them the treatment that they need. I know they're partnering with Solutions right now so that we can have 12-step meetings and try to deal with some of the demons, if you would, that have them in that position in the first place. It's about you can't just have this net and keep adding people to the net. That's not a successful mission. You have to get them out of the net. And really that's, turning these people that could be looked as a drain in society and turn them into a gain of society. And they could be the next next person to help the next people on the net. That's really part of that. But yeah, collaboration is going to be a huge thing. And for me, it's the whole region. I have to be cognizant to look at the entire county, whether that be the Fox Cities or the Fox Valley Habitat for Humanity, and a lot of the other food pantries that are out in the county. We can't forget the rural sectors, but no, we absolutely have to come together and partner up. It's not the time to stand on an island.
John, I know we talked about this, or you mentioned this in part of your comments on the budget. Through the election last April, I know we raised a question about the amount of fund balance that the county has in its coffers. I mean, then you add the ARPA money on top of it. I mean, it's probably reaching $70 million. How do you how do you plan moving forward? I know you're doing some reduction on tax rate this year, but how do you move forward to either better leverage that, ease the burden on Winnebago County taxpayers?
Well, we have to stabilize it. It would have been really easy to use our general fund instead of bonding for anything this year. But we have no idea what the next 3 years are going to look like, what interest rates look like, what inflation looks like, what the economy looks like. So really, the plan was that I could have just crashed the tax rate for 1 year, which would have been great for everybody until it completely skyrocketed the next year. We don't need that. We need more stability. So we are looking at ways. That's part of the strategic plan. That's part of figuring out what our priorities are in the government so that we can tighten the belt slowly so we can keep that tax rate going down year after year so we can be more competitive. I mean, one of the things is we have to be grateful for the baby boomer generation that did so well, that worked so hard through their entire life. They are now coming to the world where they're going to be on a fixed income. We have to get we're so dependent on property tax. We have to find a way to remove some of that burden from them. They're on a fixed income. We can't keep milking them for everything they have. We have to appreciate and let them off the hook sometimes. So, I mean, that's really to use that comfort of our general fund balance now to figure out what our priorities are and to make the choices while we have time to make the choices instead of having to make them on an emergency basis where we might not make the correct or proper choices.
Well, that's good to hear. Someday soon, I plan to be on a fixed income, so so be thinking about that, John.
Yeah.
I guess we're getting to the end of our time allotment, and again, I appreciate both of you joining us. Maybe just one last question to both of you. What other things are on the horizon that both the city and the county need to be conscious of? Are there things that we can do to help you along those lines? So, Mark or John, if you have any thoughts on that, jump in.
Well, one of the things I'm going to do is going to be a backhanded compliment to my friend John Doemel here. John is passionate about doing a lot of things, but because he's the county executive, any initiative that he does to help the Oshkosh area is much appreciated by me. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. But, John has that responsibility of the whole county. So, please understand that anything he does for us, he's got to share that love, whether it's ARPA monies or extra fund balance. There are needs throughout the county that he has to address. Now, I like to say that some of these problems are regional. So, when he wants to help day by day and the homeless issue, he is helping the entire county by doing that. But, please understand that the collaboration that I do and what John does are, they can be very compatible, but they're very different because John has a much larger geographical area to serve, and I understand that and respect that because it's just a different area of responsibility, and we'll keep working together on it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And you're right. The homeless shelter is a countywide thing. There is a homeless shelter in Outagamie County and Fond du Lac County. And right now in the northern part of the county, we just fund Outagamie County's homeless shelter for $5,000 a year. So we can do better. We can do better for Needham and Ash and Fox Crossing for those things. But really, since we're talking about Winnebago County as a whole, the biggest challenge that I have is getting us to come together as a county. We're a very interesting county. Unlike Outagamie, we don't have a population center, if you would. We have three very distinct populations. We have the city of Oshkosh, which is about a third. We have Needham and Asha Fox Crossing area, which is about a third. And then we have this rural area out in the marshlands, which is about a third. So we have three very separate populations of people. And for us to be able to come together, that's going to be a challenge and something I'm going to be asking for help for. How do I conquer that? How do we get Needham and Ash and Fox Crossing to really align with us and stop looking to Outagamie or Appleton? How do we come together as a team and really focus on helping each other? Because we are definitely going to need to do that if we want to be competitive and if we're going to face this labor crisis together. We're going to have to figure it out. We're going to have to do it as a team.
And housing, that's a great transition because housing is
Huge.
I've heard it from the business community and I hear it from people. One of my son's friends, buddy that went to school with him at Michigan Tech, was offered a job at Oshkosh Corporation and turned it down. Broke my heart because it's like, that's what we're doing. Housing wasn't the only thing, but it was certainly a factor. And, it was like, he just wanted something, affordable, yet nice, but, and he couldn't find it. The availability was so poor that he didn't want to go back to college housing is basically what he said. And I can respect that. A young professional wants to, have a better situation. So workforce housing is very real, something that is clearly beyond the city's boundaries, although we have to get housing for professionals in the central city so that we can add that vibrancy to our downtown area. And we have to do it elsewhere in the county as well.
Yep.
Okay, great. With that, we'll conclude our session. Very informative, gentlemen. We really appreciate you joining us. Again, this has been recorded. We'll get it up on our website and push that out to the members. A couple things on the horizon. We're going to be on November 18th at the county's brand new, at least a few months ago, general aviation, I guess we'll call it a terminal building on Whitman Regional Airport. We'll be hosting our business after hours that night. So if you haven't been over at that facility, it's a great chance to get in there. If you're not a pilot, you probably don't get a lot of opportunities to be in a facility like that. So, please take advantage of that if you can. Lastly, next week, we have Superintendent of the Oshkosh Area Public Schools, Brian Davis, joining us. Brian will have a lot of things to share. He has his hands full with a lot of different a variety of different things and moving parts. So that should be very, very informative. Again, thank you, John and Mark, for joining us. And I guess we will conclude. So thanks again.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys later.
Take care.
Yep.